All right. My man, Chief Cali, brother. I'm glad you got back to me and responded to me. I got your video, Pastor Wells. He actually sent it to me. I was working some horses earlier. Otherwise, I would have got back to you even sooner than this. Nevertheless, I'm glad to have received your response. I'm glad we're in respectful dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Again, that's kind of one of my largest values, is that we have respectful dialogue. We ain't got to be calling each other out each other's name. We ain't got to be doing all that foolishness. Instead, I really value the fact that you are in search of truth. Just to open this video, I want to say the first thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to defend anyone else's words except my own and that which derives from Scripture. I'm not going to defend other Christians you've met in your life. I'm not going to defend random pastor videos or whatever you can find on YouTube, online or anything. If you walk in a gym, you're going to meet... If you walk in a gym, you meet 10 different people. You can meet 10 different people with 10 different methods of working out. And they're going to tell you, no, don't drink this shake, drink that shake. And somebody else is going to say, no, don't bench press like this. You need to have your form like this. Nevertheless, all of them are health fanatics, health proponents, if you will. The same thing is true of Christianity, right? Christianity is just like every other belief system, every other discipline. You're not going to find 100 Christians who believe the same thing, okay? Just like in the gym, you're not going to find 100 gym people who all feel like this is the one true way to work out and every other way is false, right? So I'm not going to try to defend other people's opinions, words, and all of that nature. I'm just going to defend my own. I'm going to defend what I find in Scripture, and then I'm just going to skip over everything else. So, to be real with you, I just got home from working horses. I'm kind of tired, so I'm going to keep this pretty brief. All right, I'm not going to edit any videos. I'm not going to put in any work. But if you keep making good videos with all this video editing, I'm going to show you my skills after a while, all right? But, you know, it's not a competition. I'm just kidding with you, right? I hope you took that as a joke. Nevertheless, you had a few different points. You had really 3 different points that I saw kind of throughout the video. The first point that I saw point number 1 was God operates based on favoritism. He has a VIP list, you kept saying. You know what? I thought to myself when I watched part of your video at the farm in between working some horses, and I thought to myself, I said, you know what? If I was crazy, I think this guy's been to church before, right? In a sense, you're kind of right. Yes, God does have a VIP list. I never really denied that or anything. I don't even feel like it's anything I need to concede. I feel like really we just agree on that point. Yes, God, in a sense, does have a VIP list, but I use that term very loosely. I'm only using that term because it's the term you used. Instead, if I had the preference, I would prefer to communicate it like this. God is a sovereign ruler, and he can show grace to whom he wants to. He's a sovereign ruler, right? The God of the Bible is a sovereign ruler. Now, I understand, like a lot of the times when you're talking, I see you are hypothetically considering things. So in the same way, hypothetically consider if the Bible is true, the God that is presented in the Bible is a sovereign ruler. He's never presented himself as a God who must answer everyone's prayers for the sake of fairness or anything of that nature. Let me give you this example. If my daughter asks me for something right now, I'm probably going to go buy it. Why? She's doing great in school. She's respectful. You know, I never have a problem out of her. If she wants something, she can have it. She's doing everything she needs to be doing. She's respectful. If the kid next door asks me for something, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get it. You're not my kid, right? You have a dad, right? It's the exact same thing. Just to bring some scripture into it, consider the story of the Old Testament. I think maybe I watched a portion of one of your videos and you did used to go to church or something, or maybe you had a family member that was a minister or something of that nature. I don't remember exactly. So you probably essentially know the story of the Old Testament. Consider the story of the Old Testament, right? You have the Israelites. They're God's holy nation, his people set apart. All of that language is used, and they are separated from those who do not worship him. So you could consider the Israelites his VIP list, and those who do not worship him, they are not on his VIP list, right? You move into the New Testament. The New Testament expands the principle. So just to be clear, what I'm saying is that principle is available in the Old Testament, but I'm not going to go through a bunch of interpretation of the entire meta-narrative of Scripture right now. But what I am saying is the New Testament expands the idea that God doesn't want his people only to be the Israelites, but that he wants anyone who worships and believes him to be his people on the VIP list. So indeed, God does have a VIP list, and for the sake of preaching the gospel, anyone can be on that VIP list. Yes, Chief Cali, you can be on that VIP list. Anyone watching this video on your channel, on my channel, on YouTube, on the World Wide Web, on my Facebook, wherever, anyone can be on that VIP list. For Paul writes in Romans, anyone who believes in his heart and confesses with his mouth will be saved. So, I'll just, for the sake of argument, being saved is the VIP list. So if you want to be on the VIP list, you're welcome, man. I invite you personally. I invite you. Seriously, not being facetious or anything. That's just the way it works. So yeah, I don't really disagree entirely. Now, you know, there are some ways you could present the VIP list and change it and kind of manipulate the argument to then I would disagree with you. But in the sense that God does show a special favor as opposed to general favor, right? Even those who are not on the VIP list receive general favor, but God shows special favor to those who are on his VIP list. All right, so then you brought some verses up. So I got some tabs open, so let me navigate here. But then you brought some verses up. So you said, well, that doesn't make sense because Luke 11 says anyone who asks will receive. Well, you also said something else that really caught my attention. You said, I don't know how to, and I quote, I don't know how to interpret that any other way. I really appreciate the fact that you said that because interpretation, the kind of the discipline of interpretation involves hermeneutics, right? So what you imply when you say, I don't know how to interpret that any other way, is that there's a right way to interpret and there's a wrong way to interpret. I agree with you. We agree on more things than I think you may be aware of right now. I agree with you. There's a right way to interpret and there's a wrong way to interpret. And just like you said, you just don't know any other way to interpret Luke chapter 11, right? That specific passage. Here's something I'm going to throw in this video, kind of a freebie, is this. You can take almost any verse, any couple verses, any passage out of scripture and make it mean whatever you want it to mean. You can. You can present it in a manner where it just means whatever it is that you want it to mean. However, does that make it true though? Does that make it right? Right? Because I don't know you, but I know you well enough to know that don't make it right. Right? Since your statement assumes that there's a right way to interpret and there's a wrong way to interpret, because you're smart enough to understand that you can't just pick up some ancient document, take 3 sentences out, and just say, this seems like what it means, it must be what it means. Well, hermeneutics is a discipline. There's a way to interpret. So here's one hermeneutical tip that we are going to put into practice on this video so I can show you how Luke 11 actually does not contradict God's VIP list. Okay, the one hermeneutical tip I'm going to give you today is consider the text around your passage. Remember that I said you can almost take any verse and make it say what you want to say. So the way to avoid misinterpretation, the way to avoid poor exegesis is a word that's in the religious kind of study, if you will. So if you study religion, you would use the word exegesis. It means how to interpret. The way to avoid that is to consider the text around your passage. Consider what's below, consider what's above, what comes before it, what comes after it. And that's going to give you some literary context. It's going to give you an idea of what this person is talking about. Quick example is if I write a 5-page love letter to my wife and you take one sentence out of it that says something about the dog, you could say like the whole letter was about the dog. You know what I mean? It's not true, right? So here's what Luke 11 is actually talking about. You start with verse 1 in Luke 11 and Jesus says he was praying and the disciples say, Lord, teach us how to pray. So he says, when you pray, say this. And then he starts in the Our Father prayer, the model prayer, whatever you might know it as, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. He starts giving them an example of how to pray. Notice in that prayer, hallowed be your name, or holy is your name, is a part of that prayer. What he intends to communicate is this. Here is how you should pray. Here's a model in which you can take, in which how you can pray. And the first thing he says is, call the name of God holy when you pray. Call the name of God holy. All right, so you keep going. In the very next paragraph, Jesus is saying, he gives this kind of example, right? And I'm just going to paraphrase the example. It says, suppose you go to a friend and at midnight and you're trying to get some food and your friend's like, no. Or you keep knocking on the door and you're very persistent. You keep trying to get some food and your friend keeps saying no. At the end of the paragraph, he says, I tell you, even though he will not get up and give you the bread because of friendship, yet because of your shameless audacity, your persistence, you keep going, he will surely get up and give you as much as you need. And then we walk into your passage. Ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door shall be opened to you. So what is Luke saying in chapter 11? What he is saying is, when you pray, number one, we deduce that call the name of God holy. And number two, you should be in search of something. You should be in search of something. So when he says, ask and it will be given it to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you, for everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, it means the one who is searching for something, whether in prayer, whether just in life, you're doing life, you're searching for something from God, then it will be given to them. But it doesn't mean that anyone who asks, but they're not searching for something will be given to them. A way to describe that concept, if I was to believe that Luke 11 was talking about, if I just ask, even if I don't believe he's going to give it to me, he should give it to me, that would be called a proof text. It means when you take a sentence out of any sort of document, whether religious or not, you take a sentence out of a document and you make it try to mean something that it wasn't intended to mean within the document. That's what that would be a proof text, because Luke is not saying that. He's clearly not saying that, because the paragraph right above it gives an example of someone who's asking a friend for something. Asking a friend, I keep asking my friend. So then if you ask everyone who asks with that attitude, it will be given to them. All right, so I'm going to I took some notes on your video. Right? So you gave one more example. It came out of the book of John chapter 14, I believe. Yeah, John chapter 14. And you said, where is it? You said, you may ask me for anything in my name and I will do it. Well, again, same hermeneutical tip, right? You got to consider the passage around it. You can't just take those sentences, proof text a document and say, this must be what it means. Well, that's not actually what it means. How do you know that's not what it means, Trap? Okay, here's how I know. You look at what John is actually talking about, and he's talking to Philip, and he says, hey, don't you know that if you've seen me, you've seen God, and if you've seen God, you've seen me? He says, don't you believe that the Father is in me? He's essentially saying, don't you believe that I am God? Right, this is Jesus, and don't you believe I'm God? I am in the Father, and that the Father is in me. He goes on to say, the words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority, but rather is God living in me. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, or at least believe on the evidence of the works themselves, right? This is Jesus, because this is the passage you chose, John 14. This is Jesus saying, I am God. Believe me. Believe in me, right? We get to the verse that you quoted. He says, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing, and they will do even greater things, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name. And is a conjunction. And I will do whatever you ask in my name. Since it's a conjunction, what that means is you must consider the first part of the sentence. If you just take the second part of the sentence, it's called a proof text. You can't do that. It's very irresponsible of us to do that. I don't mean to seem so, so strong. I'm not trying to come off strong, but at the same time, it's irresponsible. You can't take half the sentence and say, okay, right? We have to do the first part of the sentence. And the first part of the sentence says, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing, and I will do whatever they ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified. And then it gets to the sentence you said, you may ask me for anything in my name and I will do it. But you can't separate that from, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me. John 14 does not contradict the VIP list. Luke 11 does not contradict the VIP list. Yes, I do agree to an extent, only in principle, very loosely, that God does have a VIP list. However, God's inviting everybody to be on that VIP list. Everybody to be on that VIP list. He's inviting everybody. Romans says if you just confess and believe, if you confess and believe, you can be on the VIP list. It's not like he created a VIP list and it's impossible for certain people to get on that VIP list. It's not like he created this VIP list and it's impossible for everyone's prayer to be heard. He just says, if you believe in me. But if you don't believe in me, it's like my neighbor's kid asking me to buy him a bicycle, man. I'm not, unless I'm going to do it out of charity, I'm not going to do it for the same reason I would do it for my daughter. I'm doing it for my daughter because she's mine, right? But I can't do it for the whole city because I'm not a baller. Feel me? God's a baller. I'm just kidding. But I hope you take this in the spirit that I sent it to you, with nothing but peace, love, and respect, but just answering your questions, man, because Luke 11 doesn't contradict it. John 14 doesn't contradict it. And to an extent, I agree. Yes, God has a VIP list, and he invites you to be on it. All right? You mentioned one other thing. I just can't remember what it is right now. So I hope this satisfies kind of your questions or whatever. Again, I hope you received it in the spirit I sent it. I ain't hostile. I ain't got nothing, I got too much life to live to be YouTube arguing. But at the same time, I will answer a question about my beliefs. I will answer a question about correct interpretation of Scripture and what the message is actually saying. Because again, you can take whatever you want to, and read into it. All right, so that's that. I really don't have nothing beyond that to say. So, hey, I'm signing off, bro. I hope I answered the questions. If not, I'll make another video in the future. I'm just trying to get this one out of the way. We finna start dinner time in the house and everything. Kids about to go to bed, and we're gonna be chilling. So, all right, bro. Peace, love, happiness, respect. Take it easy, big dog.